What's up, fish tank people? FishTankTV.com, Dustin's Fish Tanks. This is Steve, bringing it to you from Steve's house. Looking at my 72-gallon bow front. Got a Species Sunday today. We're going to talk about Glossostigma. Let me get you to stand up and get a close-up of the Glosso here at the bottom. This is one of my favorite plants and one of my favorite foreground plants. Glossostigma has been a long staple of the aquarium foreground plants. It was originally brought into the industry by the godfather himself, Takashi Amano, who really brought aquascaping to a whole new level. This is a great plant because he used it for a lot of his aquascapes that he calls iwagumi, which means basically keeping low foreground plants and really no background plants whatsoever much. The Glosso I've got here has been growing. It does require some certain things to have success with it. I've failed at it in the past, and I think I know why I failed at it in the past. The biggest thing I have going for me on this particular tank is I've got great nutrients in the tank. Dustin taught me a lot of things about fish tanks and a lot of things about aquascaping over the years, and one of the biggest things he taught me was go with the dirt. Now this tank is dirted, and ever since I started going with dirted tanks, I've had a lot more success with my aquariums. There is just a very thin layer of dirt covering the entire bottom of the 72-gallon tank, and on top of it's about an inch of what I just use as pool filter sand. It's cheap. Buy a 50-pound bag for $10 at your local pool store, and it makes for a pretty good color. But anyways, the other thing that you're going to require to have success with Glosso is CO2. I've got a large CO2 tank going under here. It's pumping down in here, and I've got a ladder. The ladder increases time and with surface area of the bubbles as they slowly rise to the top. And if you'll notice, the bubbles at the bottom are actually rather large, and then when we get up to the top, they're pretty small. So that means I'm getting a lot of CO2 absorption in my tank, which really helps feed the Glossostigma over time and helps you have success. The last thing that we don't really have to show here is I've got 4 T5 lights on the top of the tank. I use light fixtures from ZoomEd, mostly just because I like them because they don't have little built-in fans that wind up breaking and getting noisy. They're purely heat-cooled. I've got 2 of the 2 T5 fixtures. They just came out with a new fixture that's got 4 T5 bulbs. So ZoomEd, there's your shout out. I want free stuff. Please send them to me. Anyways, let's talk a little more about Glosso. What do you need for success other than that? Well, unfortunately, you can't. They're a pain in the butt to plant. You got to plant lots of them. You got to plant them everywhere. You got to individually plant every one of these little stems. And they grow and they spread through time. And if you look right here, you can see how they spread. They spread with these little runner chains. And every one of these runner chains, if you cut this little 2-leaf section, you can see there's 2 little roots. You can stick that in the ground with tweezers, but you do have to trim it pretty often, and you have to trim it a lot. So what I do, in order to keep the tanks looking good, every 2 weeks you want to trim the tallest of the plants. You just cut them off here, just trim. You're going to get growth coming back from the bottom, and it's going to grow back over time, and it's also going to encourage it to spread over the surface at the low parts of the tank. And it's going to keep it from looking all tall and mangly, that it does get there over time. So definitely trim it. I think every 2 weeks is sufficient. So it is going to take a bit of a commitment with this plant. The other thing is every one of these you can plant back into the ground, into the sand. So I've got my little tweezers here. Just grab it here at the bottom and fill in this little gap right back here in the back. And we're done. And that's it. So you get to the point where you got your tank full after a while, but Glosso is a great plant, makes great for foreground plants, looks really good, it's high maintenance. You need nutrients, I prefer dirt, you need CO2, and you need good lighting. So that's the secret. Species Sunday, Glossostigma. Thank you.